Pac-Man went live, and I think it was like late February, and he said, Blast is live, go in, bridge everything, like start using the apps and so on. And then he announced that Blur is going to be live like after like 30, 40 days. So I literally after I saw the tweet, I was like, I knew that we have the infrastructure to quickly deploy into new networks ready, because that's what we've been working on for the most part that past year. So I called my CTO and I was like, dude, this is our moment. How fast can we actually go live? Like, this is an actual use case. And he's like, let's jump on a call with our other like VP of engineering at that time. And he was like, okay, guys, like we can actually do this in 48 hours with no sleep. And I was like, let's do it. And they're like, okay. So that was a Thursday. That was Thursday evening. We went live Saturday morning on Blast. And we did like something like $15-20 million in volume first week on Blast. And then after like a couple months, we've crossed like $40 million traded volume.
Welcome back to another episode of Andrew Asks How podcast. Here with me today, I have Evan, the CEO of Mintify, who I just found out was also Italian. It's nice to have a fellow Italian join us today. Evan, how you doing?
Good. Greek, actually, but then also,
blood.
with Italian heritage or something like that. Yeah, doing well. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you jumping on. We also mentioned the background, your work setup, probably one of the nicest ones I've seen actually up on the show. Did you like have a designer design that, Evan, or you just kind of like said, I like this from something I've seen before and put it together yourself?
No, it's mostly Pinterest like inspiration, and I put this together like this past summer. I put like the wood panel, did like a Venetian black color wall. Like it's fun. It's fun. It's a nice little studio. Like we moved earlier last year essentially, and put together this space. It's kind of nice. It's like my man cave in a sense.
Looks good. Everyone's going to be jealous. Let's kick this off to go then. So obviously the CEO of Mintify. How did Mintify come to be?
Oh, wow. So basically my crypto journey started in 2020. I jumped into crypto in 2015, essentially.
Yep.
But on a high level, I'm a 5 times founder with 3 exits. I served in the Navy for a year, got my bachelor's degree in finance. And then I bootstrapped my last company. It was Gadgetfly. I bootstrapped it to an 8-figure valuation over the course of like 10 years or so. And then I exited, sold it to our biggest competitor about almost two and a half years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so I grew up as a gamer. So, crypto instantly clicked when I jumped into it in 2015. I was saying like games like World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, and so on. Still play Warzone every here and there. But, everything clicked with crypto, started like investing mostly some ICOs, 2017, 2018. And then around 2021, we moved to the US with my wife for good. And bumped into like the CloneX mint and, the Proof Collective mint back in that December of 21. And I went full in. I was like, okay, this is actually happening. Non-fungibles actually make sense. There's a ton of use cases. So one of the things I was struggling at the time was that there wasn't enough tooling for analytics. That was back in the IC tools essentially era, right? So it wasn't enough like analytics platforms or deep data that I can just do some technical analysis or this and that. Even though it was kind of useless at that point because everything was just going up at that time.
Yeah.
And I put together a team right around Christmas of 21. Poached the CTO from my other company that we've been working hand in hand for like 10 years or so. And we started working on Mintify like January 2nd of 2022. So that's, like we've been at it for like 3 years at this point. We've raised 3 rounds. We're about to launch a token. But what Mintify is today, we started as an NFT platform. What Mintify is today essentially is, like a platform to trade on-chain assets. Like we've announced that we're going to be expanding beyond NFTs into fungibles. We've announced plans for Solana. So it's 2025 is going to be quite interesting. Abstract, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Abstract is one of those, obviously, I'm sure you're similar, Evan, where it's like, it has me really excited. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but Abstract has me personally excited. I want to dive into your acquisitions before, because you've had 3 of them. Those are a lot. And you seem like a pretty young guy too. I don't know your age. You seem like a pretty young guy. So 3 acquisitions, a lot over a period of, let's say maybe 2 decades at most, right? 2 decades at most. When you started all these companies that became startups that then became acquired, was acquisition always the goal, or you decided to later on in the journey of that company and life cycle that this was the way to go because this was the best thing to do, or this was something you had set in your mind before you even started the companies prior to?
Right. No. So I would say that for the most part, it was just a good timing. And I was just too excited about the next thing. That's how I go about it for the most part. But I feel like crypto was something that I always felt the urge to build on top of, essentially, primarily because due to my age, I'm early 30s. I've missed essentially the, Web 2 type of era, with social media and Silicon Valley startups. I was just graduating high school, I guess at that point, just heading into college, right? So I was even though my first company basically incorporated when I was 17, it was just a blog about design, and I'm a self-taught developer, designer. I always felt especially being in Europe at that time, 2008, 2010, you couldn't do too much being in Europe. You had to actually be in Silicon Valley. And I couldn't do that at that time. And I felt on my end, when I bumped into crypto, I felt it's so early and it's so much more evolutionary, essentially, what's happening. The, revolution of finance, essentially, right? And it's a once in a lifetime type of opportunity. I was always looking at opportunities, right? What can I do? What can I build essentially in this space? But the opportunity essentially came a few years later with Mintify and NFTs.
And when you had the acquisitions, obviously the first startup was at 17, which is, by the way, incredible that it was that young. You weren't even old enough to have liquor yet, or which is incredible. Were you an operator at the time of acquisition, or were you a business owner at the time of acquisition? What was your
100% operator? Always in the trenches.
Okay.
Always in the trenches. 100%. Yeah, and that's how I've learned how to be an operator the hard way, because I always felt the gadget for my last company, I grew to 20, 22, 23 headcount before I exited. But then, once I started each company, essentially, I went through pretty much every position myself. I was creating content. Obviously, when you're a founder and you're early on, you gotta handle of accounting and logistics and pretty much everything around it, HR, management, whatever that would be. So I've learned everything the hard way, which I feel is the best way as well, right? No matter how much training you get from getting a bachelor's degree or whatever, going to school about it, it's completely different, if you actually do it, if you're actually in the trends, if you're an operator, and go through most of these roles yourself. And I was doing sales, I was doing customer support with GadgetFlow. And then I hired people and I was like, here's how I'm doing it. Would love for you to kind of elevate it. And I felt that was one of the biggest learnings, the fact that the faster essentially you hire people that are better than you at, being a sales rep or a customer support rep, the faster you'll grow eventually. And there's a lot of founders out there that are kind of stubborn in a way that's here's how you're supposed to do sales, right? But you're hey, you can be the best sales rep and the best customer support rep and the best operator all at once. You got to hire people that are smarter than you, better than you, so they can scale your company.
Doing your thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And we talk about this a lot especially like in the industry too, a lot of companies are trying to become enterprise and like turn themselves into like service businesses or whatever into an enterprise. You effectively did that because like during an acquisition, I've never had one, but I've read a lot of books on it, so it's like vastly different. Like there's always two or three things that they're being acquired for. And like this is why service businesses kind of struggled to get acquired, because they're all based off of like customers, and customers a little bit of a shaky variable. How did you turn your business into enterprise?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that there are many acquisition models for many types of buyers, I guess. Like what I've learned so far is that for the most part, when someone is trying to acquire you, it's probably for a reason that you haven't thought about as an owner at the time.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because you're like, hey, I grew this company to like a multi-million-dollar
Yeah.
valuation. We have, millions in revenue. We have year-over-year growth XYZ. And, the other guy might be like, well, I just, want to acquire you just because of your branding. I don't care about the numbers, per se, right? Yeah, pretty much like every case was different. But I feel like, what there are things that you can do to be like ready for an acquisition. That said, timing is everything. It's extremely hard for, especially tech and crypto, right? It's extremely hard to just be like, okay, I'm gonna wake up one day and I'm gonna be like, I'm selling, right? It's not as easy, and I feel like that's the wrong mentality as a builder, like doing it just for the acquisition. It's more about, is there an opportunity down the road that you'd be happy to entertain? Sure, absolutely, but it's like I am too committed to invest it at this point and too passionate with this industry. And I just feel like in general, founders have this at the back of their mind, right? But it's a fruitful thought, but at the end of the day, like the chances of someone getting acquired are like so slim, like sub 1%, sub perhaps even 0.1%.
Do you think it's even more slim in crypto?
Huh?
Do you think it's even more slim in crypto? Or do you think the possibility
That's
in
a
crypto
good
is higher?
question. So, I don't know where this is gonna air, but I don't know. I personally feel like there should be consolidation in crypto, even though it's a super small space. It's so spread out, with like so many people building pretty much the same thing with like extremely small like differences between like products and services. That I don't think that it's scalable or sustainable. And here at Mintify, we actually have that mentality, and going into 2025, like we're excited about some of the things that we're thinking about doing. But on a high level, as an industry, I feel like there has to be consolidation. There has to be mergers. There has to be acquisitions, because we're in this crazy free for all type of mode right now. That's unsustainable, and bear markets, bull markets, like we raised in probably these last 3 rounds in the worst possible timing ever. Like just to put out some context, first round we raised it right after Celsius collapsed and right before like FTX collapsed. So we were like, here's something incredible we've built, and everyone was like, well, we're not investing because of Celsius, or not necessarily VCs were impacted directly, but the market, et cetera, et cetera. And then the next round, it was at literally the bottom of the bear market for NFTs. And then the other round was like last year, still pretty much like bottom or slightly, after the bottom. Yeah, man, no, I just feel like it's extremely hard for a founder to raise in the crypto space, because a lot of people are kind of like diluting the attention in a sense, right? And most of VCs are, and you can blame them obviously, most of VCs are interested in like, what is the current hype? Is it AI agents? Is it like this? Is it that? But if we're thinking collectively as an industry to kind of like push this industry beyond, like not just in the next 3 months, but rather the next 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, right? Because that's how long it's going to take, essentially. We need to figure out ways to support some of the bigger players, some of the players essentially that are looking at making contributions in this space that are going to be impactful for the years to come, not just for the next hyped agent, right? Even though I love AI agents, I love the current meta essentially, but yeah, just from a founder's perspective.
Even you brought up the bear market too, even like from a position of like not having an NFT collection or being a founder from that perspective, you guys still are a founder of a service business to my knowledge that's either enterprise or becoming enterprise at this point in time. Does the bear market affect you guys the same way it does like other teams that have like products that are on chain?
Yeah, I feel like the bear market affects everyone no matter what. There's like you've seen massive businesses with like hundreds of billions in cash flow basically, right? And just cash reserves essentially laying off like thousands of people. So it doesn't really matter how big you are, you have to take measures, and that's the truth of it essentially. On our end, I feel like this past bear market, especially for the NFTs between like 2022 and last year, essentially, was kind of good for us in a sense that it gave us more time to build, and we built something incredible. Like we've modularized our infrastructure in a way that we can deploy to new networks and ecosystems within just hours. No one can essentially do that in the industry, and on top of that, we have the most advanced trading terminal essentially for NFT trading, and soon for fungibles as well, including meme coins. And to build we built all of that by being like hyper focused into the infrastructure, and we always knew that we wanted to build for the future. How can we make sure that we have fast deployments into new networks, right? And I feel like on our end, like we achieved that probably like mid 2024, and that's when we decided to expand into Bitcoin. So that was a completely different beast, essentially.
What before we get to like Mintify currently, what skills do you think you learned from the past acquisitions, the past businesses that like transfer over what you're doing now?
Yeah, I wouldn't just narrow it down to acquisitions, but in general, I would say that I've been following kind of like my gap filling in a sense, right? For whatever I'm doing in life with my career most specifically. But I think that it's just important to build by not having an acquisition in mind. And if it comes, that's great. You can just consider it. Yeah, if it happens, happens. But then, especially in crypto, like if you're not passionate enough, if you're not like literally addicted to your brand and what you're building, and like willing to spend like 15-hour days in the worst possible conditions, just building for something that you don't even know whether it's going to work, then the crypto space, and I think that the tech space as a whole, I guess, is just not for you. Literally building in crypto feels like you're getting punched in the face like every day. But it's something like much bigger, and it's extremely hard to justify the circumstances. But if you're passionate enough and you believe it, believe in what you're doing, then it's worth it.
What do you? This is gonna be a stupid question, but I'll ask. What do you think people most know Mintify for? You obviously stated what you guys are, but what do you think they most known you for? And I'll preface like, I'll give an example, and then I'll let you answer for context. Like we've been doing this show, as we mentioned before, off air for like 7 months, and there's people that I talk to on a weekly basis that have no idea I have a podcast still. So they know me for other stuff. And I'm like, how don't you guys know me for the podcast? I've been doing this for 7 months. Episodes I've gotten over 500K views collectively. How do you not know? And then it's like, well, they probably have their own lives they're paying attention to. They have other things. There's probably bigger podcasts than me. This makes sense. I'll reframe it. What's the thing being Mintify is most known for today?
Yeah, so I would say that the first thing we did in the space while we were building the infrastructure was covering everything that was dropping on the NFT side. So we have an incredible curation team that's like in-house. And we've been doing that since February of 2022. I think we just posted recently that we've given away like this past year, how many, if it wasn't millions, it was high hundreds of thousands of like whitelist spots to our community.
Crazy.
Which was an insane number. Don't quote me on that. But basically we started with that. It was super successful. And then we launched a basic trading platform And then we launched the modularized version that was 2023. That was like the most advanced trading environment to trade on. I feel like what we're known for right now, if you ask like the average degen and trader in their space, it would be um, how like that we are fast builders. Like we've surprised this industry a few times with one of the most like impactful time was that when we launched on Blast. That was like
Yeah.
last year. So so I remember that
And
Pac-Man
you guys had
basically
changed your logo to like orange. I saw that. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that was for Bitcoin. That was like
Oh, that
after,
was
but
Bitcoin.
that
Yes.
was yellow. Blast
Yes.
is yellow. But
Yes.
for Blast, that was essentially our first network expansion. And Pac-Man went live, and I think it was like late February, and he said, Blast is live. Go in, bridge everything, like start using the apps and so on. And then he announced that Blur is gonna be live like after like 30, 40 days. So I literally seconds after I saw the tweet, I was like, I knew that we have the infrastructure to quickly deploy into new networks ready, because that's what we've been working on for the most part that past year. So I called my CTO and I was like, dude, this is our moment. How fast can we actually go live? Like this is an actual use case. And he's like, let's jump on a call with our other like VP of engineering at that time. And he was like, okay, guys, like we can actually do this in 48 hours with no sleep.
Wow.
And I was like, let's do it. And they're like, okay. So that was a Thursday. That was Thursday evening. We went live Saturday morning on Blast. And we did like something like 15, $20 million in volume first week on Blast. And then
Crazy.
after like a couple months, we've crossed like $40 million traded volume. We've also launched the Launchpad. We've launched an API. We've launched our XP system on Blast. And essentially, it was an incredible couple months on Blast for as long as it lasted, essentially, before Blur came out. Yeah.
The community response based off of the volume was absolutely nuts. And you guys did zero marketing for this, right? I assume you guys just put out a tweet and maybe you retweeted it, the crew retweeted it, and like that was the extent of it.
Yeah. That's how we do it for the most part. We marketing, like traditional marketing in crypto doesn't work, right? Like
Correct.
you can, and especially like you can't go to a DJ and be like, here's a Twitter advertisement. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But we're thankful enough to have like a ton of early supporters that we kind of converted into ambassadors, advisors, you name them. So we have some incredible names that have been supporting us since early on, like Chunk, Captain with the morning show for the past like 2 years.
Kermit.
Kermit, like Hanwi, the
Legendary
number one
Sammy,
Blur farmer. Of course, legendary, incredible dude and B-Check. But yeah, we've been getting their support throughout this last year and a half that we've put together this program. But one of the things that I've asked them explicitly was, I want you guys to do this in an organic way. It's not like, hey, we're paying you to just do a tweet or anything, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're supporting a brand and you're not excited about what they're doing, then why are you supporting the brand in the first place, right?
Correct.
And it feels like that for the most part for like competition and like other products that exist in the space.
Isn't that kind of a duality though? Like in some sense, Evan, like you have teams that are like spending months and months of like marketing, rollout, everything included, and like their end result is not as great as yours. And then you guys just find the right time and get it done within a 48-hour time bracket. And the thing goes live and you're seeing 8-9 figures worth of volume within that day. Like, isn't that kind of a duality where people are stressing like marketing? Those that are stressing marketing are not getting the job done. And you guys literally put out a tweet, maybe some organic tweets, maybe some retweets, and like you're doing all those numbers. It's kind of insane.
It is insane, but
so market timing over marketing,
hand,
then would you say? Would you say market timing over marketing?
100%. But then you have this issue. One is predictable, one is not.
Yes.
So you can build a business and like raise money and be like, we're just gonna base it on intuition or like timing, because you don't know whether the timing for the most part is not gonna work. It's not predictable. So doing like doing it the traditional way and putting together like a marketing campaign and thinking about how can we get this to like 100,000 people? How can we put together a campaign that reaches 1 million people? I feel like that's the better way, the most, like you can kind of like predict how it's going to go, right? You can run some numbers, you can do the estimates. On the other hand, if you nail timing, it's gonna blow the other campaign like multiple times over, right? So what is the golden, I guess, at the end of the day, the golden ratio here is like timing and great marketing, which you rarely see in our space with products and services. Yeah.
What are you guys most focused on now? Like up to date, like are you guys trying to like recreate the blast thing? Because like if I'm you guys, I try to recreate the blast and blur thing. And I honestly like I don't know how the timing will work for this, but abstract might be the next one, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of abstract and their team. I think that what they're doing, they're putting it out to public as a consumer chain is a very, very smart play. The abstract wallet is a very smart play that they're doing as well. But I think that Mintify as a brand should remain chain agnostic. Like for sure, we're day one launch partner essentially of abstract, but for sure we want to remain chain agnostic and make sure that if you're a Solana maxi, if you're an ETH maxi or an abstract maxi, you can use Mintify, with fungible and non-fungible essentially assets that you're trading the same way. We're not picking favorites essentially. What we're focusing on today, I don't know when this is going to go live, but on the 21st, essentially, that we're recording, we're pushing live our completely redesigned platform. So if you head over to mintify.xyz, we brought all the chains into a single user interface with like deep analytics, deep market liquidity. And we're also teasing that we're going to be adding support. So it's kind of known. We're going to be adding support for runes and crypto in general, supporting like swaps, mints, etc. For the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to be laser focused on our launchpad. We have a lot of abstract launches taking place on Mintify.
Very nice.
And then we have, of course, like our token launch, which we're very, very excited about.
Yes. I mentioned this to Jake. I don't know how much like you guys plan on like adding these things in, but I'm gonna keep harping on it, I guess. Do you guys plan on like creating more like data points, like more of like a data aggregator? Because like I mentioned this to Jake, and I'm not sure if Jake like ran up the chain, but like we see so many like heat maps of NFTs and like prices like this, and that stuff is all great and sexy. But I think there's a next leg up. I think we start seeing heat maps for actual products in terms of which products have the most usage. So imagine like having a heat map for abstract. Yeah, so we combine it with those words. Imagine having that done, and you see on Mintify all the most used abstract products based off of like volume or like clicks or whatever quantifiable you want to use. I think that would be way more attractive than like just having like the way everyone else has like just like the normal one version layer one of like NFTs or like token heat maps.
Right. That's 100% doable. Like on-chain data is something that we can essentially present any way we want, whether it's a heat map or a graph or whatever. Matter of fact, we're one of the biggest like data infrastructure providers in the space. We have more than like 12 terabytes worth of data for NFTs. It is crazy. And we have an API and we power like multiple different bots, applications, services. That's like the long-term infra play essentially. I mean, look, it's more about like demand, right? Like who would actually
if it's only me, who cares?
Exactly. And business, I feel like that has been the argument with everything that we build, and not just us, but everyone else in the industry. It's like that's why you have to be in the trenches as a founder, as a developer, as a content creator, as whatever you're doing in this industry, whatever your position is, you have to be in the trenches. Because if you don't, have a first class seat on what the hell is happening in the space every single day, then you can't prioritize what is the best next thing to build, or the next feature essentially to focus on. And this has been no doubt like by far one of our biggest challenges. The fact that we're fairly a small team. Most brands out there are like fairly small teams with a few exceptions, but we're fairly a small team. We have like 3 developers today, in-house. In total, we're like 12 people.
Yes.
And it's extremely hard saying like, okay, we're going to build like our Bitcoin infra. We're going to build our Solana infra. We're going to build like AI agent infra. Because all these things take time and resources and obviously money, right? So like by the time you end up building something, it might not be, vibey anymore.
Yes.
So you're like, okay, you wasted a month or 3 months doing XYZ. Right?
Capital, time,
Yeah.
resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the then I'll ask, what's the main thing the market's telling you to do next? Like what's the greatest market feedback that you guys are getting right now that like needs to be the next thing or things that they want to see get done?
Fungibles, 100%. Like, and fungibles, not just in a way of replicating like, Bird's Eye or Deck Screener or like Solana, let's say, trading platforms, but rather doing it. We're great at we're great at distribution as a brand. We're great at user interface and user experience, UX UI, right? We're great at building scalable infrastructure and solutions. So it's like, taking all these things into consideration, like what can we build? What is like the next thing that we're building? Essentially it's fungibles and support for fungibles in a way that's like for the average consumer, not like the pro traders. This is one of the mistakes maybe that we did like early on, which was let's build an institutional version of Mintify. But then we realized that there isn't institutional interest as yet.
Correct.
Will there be institutional interest in the future? Most likely. I'm pretty positive myself, but never 100%.
Never know.
So I'm like, okay, so then what is the meta at this point? Like build more degen tools, right? That are like for the folks that are not like Wall Street traders, but they understand what the sell wall is, for example, right? Because there's like 2,000 or 3,000 people. So if you can get that market share, that's great. That's what we did and it was successful. But now it's fungibles in a way that's like wallet abstraction, Apple Pay on-ramping, the moonshots of the world. They're doing incredible job, but we're thinking more holistically as having like us being the gateway for any digital asset, essentially, not just NFTs, not just fungibles, but everything. Yeah. And then combine lending, combine DeFi. So you can use your imagination where this could go, essentially.
Yes. And then Evan, what's like the point of focus to have like all my friends who like have crypto, but like they don't really do it consistently. So like they're participants, but they're not like constant participants. And there is a difference. Like me and you are constant participants in the marketplace. They're just like passive 6 month, 7 month participants. And like, it's a little bit tougher to get them involved, but eventually I think they will kind of come over the way they've kind of, got involved with stocks since we became 20. Like eventually that'll happen in my opinion. How do you guys plan on getting those people? Like what will attract them to Mintify? Cause there's a whole wave of people that have yet to come in. And like, I think Trump potentially is a leg up, not the leg up, but a leg up.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree on that. So a few things here. I think that the one thing that prevents more normies, more like average consumers from being on board into crypto from a trading perspective is pretty much the products and the value prop. Like we got to simplify the hell of pretty much. We have to simplify everything as an industry, right? Like it's just the concept of bridging, right? Like the friction that it creates, the concept of Web3 wallets, having seed phrases, and then needing a different wallet per chain. Some wallets are trying to fix that, like Phantom. Big fan of Phantom. I'm an angel investor at Rainbow.
Awesome.
Rainbow's absolutely killing it with like EVMs. Like I don't think there's a better wallet out there. That said, there's still like insane friction. We gotta oversimplify everything in order for all of our friends to be like, oh yeah, I got a bit of this, I have a bit of that, I have these NFTs, right? Plus I feel like we need to go beyond the word NFTs. It's like, I don't know. I feel like it's damaging.
Then? What's the word? What's the word then?
I don't know. Digital assets. Like honestly,
isn't that more complicated? You don't think?
No, because it's a digital asset. Like it's kind of self-explanatory. Non-fungible asset is 1,000 times more complicated than saying, this is a digital asset. It's not just a JPEG. No, I feel like, and at the end of the day, it's the consensus, right? It's not what I say, but I feel like the oversimplification of things should be a priority for everything, and then also consolidating products and services, because everything, the ecosystem is so diluted, and I feel like there's a lot of greediness in this space as well. Like so many L2s being launched, conversations about L3s, side chains being launched, liquidity, like stable coins. It's like, I feel like we're expanding towards the wrong direction for the most part. But then obviously everyone has hope, including myself. That's why, we keep building, we keep contributing in this space, which makes you wonder, like, are we early? And we're absolutely early, even though everyone's, hates, hearing that at this point. After like 3-4 years, we are early. And it's like looking back at like early 90s basically of the internet and being like, someone keeps repeating we're early in the 93, but you're still early, right?
Yes. Evan, I have an interesting question too for you, because I think it's something, at least like my perspective, like every brand that has a service product should be thinking about, especially one that it's useful in the market and our existing eco already enjoys and has a love for. Do you think most people find crypto products via SEO, or do you think they find it via Twitter, as in CT?
So
and depending on where you go with this, I have a follow-up, obviously. So it's kind of set up.
Yeah, I love this question, actually. Yeah, I'm very familiar with SEO. I have a media agency in my early 20s. That was main focus. Yeah, I would say that I think that it's mostly word of mouth if I had to prioritize it, and then it's curiosity. So I would argue it's Google, which means it's SEO. It's definitely not crypto Twitter. 100% not.
So like OpenSea has all the normies. Blur is more so catered towards the guys like me. You've been here for a while. You guys are probably some in the middle, yes?
Yeah, pretty much. Like with this interface that we're rolling out today, we're blending these two worlds into one. So normies have the simplicity, the wallet abstraction, sign in with Twitter, email, on-ramp with Apple Pay, buy an NFT without even knowing what a seed phrase is, right? And keeping it safe with wallet abstraction. But then if you care about sell walls and buying in quantity and placing bids on Blur, Mintify, OpenSea at the same time, you still have that type of functionality.
I haven't used OpenSea in 3 years.
Yeah.
Not used in 3 years. I don't like the team. Not a huge fan of what they've done. Haven't touched it in 3 years. But when you look up NFT marketplace or like trading, OpenSea is always the very first thing that comes up on Google. Always.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
How does that get flipped on its head? Because like, if you ask any of the people that have been here with our industry, like, no, we don't use OpenSea because blah, 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 blah. They have a problem with the team. How does that get flipped on its head? Yeah, because they're taking all the normies, they're taking all the normie acquisition, whether we want to like it or not. That's happening because of SEO. It's happening.
Well, yes and no. It's not happening because of SEO. It's happening because of art primarily. OpenSea. First of all, OpenSea, you got to recognize that without OpenSea, there wouldn't be NFTs today. Maybe there would have been another type of OpenSea, but they've made incredible contributions to the ecosystem, from the seaport, which is, one of the most important pieces of infrastructure for the past like 2-3 years, to like essentially bringing NFTs to life in like 2017.
Yes.
Like who was thinking about NFTs in 2017, right? So I totally respect OpenSea, what they built, and the team at OpenSea. That said, I feel like OpenSea is focusing more towards the art ecosystem, like their partnership with Art Blocks, the 1155 integrations that they have, and their UX as well, is leaning towards, essentially the art community. And I feel like the reason we're seeing like higher volumes is because like if you were to buy a Fidenza or a QQL or anything from Tyler Hobbs, right, or an Autoglyph, that's like a 250,000 transaction in one go. So compare that now to like a new DJ collection coming out on Ape Chain, right? That's doing like a total volume of like $40,000 in like a day, right? So on one hand, you have like a lot of traders, hyper trading essentially like an asset that costs $1.
Yes.
And then on the other hand, you have like someone who logs in, signs in, right? And it's like, okay, I'm going to buy something with 250,000 one click. So I feel like it's two different demographics. And truth to be told is that we've realized that probably a couple of years ago, year and a half ago, and that's why we've put in motion this product that we're pushing out today, which essentially is for both types of traders, buyers, essentially, right? And I feel like in general, the crypto market, like the crypto space in general needs more of these products like the one we've built, which is
Correct.
consolidating like the pro version, the enterprise version, and this version, right? And just bringing it to a single product with beautiful UX UI.
Everybody's welcome.
And eliminate friction. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I so believe this to be true. And I have one more question. It doesn't matter how good the product is. People buy from people they like. Business is a people game. They buy from people they like, regardless of how the product is. OpenSea's a prime example of that. Evan, today, January 21st, what are you most excited about?
Whew. So many things. I would say that what excites me the most, like in my career, is the opportunity to contribute early on to this, industry. Essentially, that's going to be. I feel like it's a once in a lifetime type of opportunity. The fact that we're here today on the show, each of us essentially building and contributing, spreading awareness, building product. I feel like we're still extremely, extremely early, but what inspires me the most is like there's precedent essentially in this industry because crypto comes out of tech. Essentially, it's kind of like a branch of tech if you think about it. And there's precedent, throughout this like, last 20, 30 years essentially with Web 1, Web 2. Now we're like Web 3, even though everyone hates that term. It's just incredible to give power back to the people in a sense, like financialization of digital assets. Is a topic essentially that keeps me on my toes at all times. And I feel like, for the most part, a lot of things started when Robinhood came out and gave power to like the Redditors essentially, right? The Reddit community and what happened with GME, that kind of created a movement. And that movement, we see that movement now with like meme coins being more established. I don't feel like meme coins will ever be not relevant. I feel like meme coins are here to stay and they're part of a cultural phenomenon in a sense, right? That doesn't mean that they'll always keep going up. But what I'm saying is that there's this cultural revolution that we're all experiencing right now with meme coins, with someone essentially going on stream and just doing something, right? Like that's kind of unique. That's new. I, on the other hand, I'm more excited about the financialization, I guess, of all types of assets, RWAs, and how we're going to turn our, airplane tickets into like an NFT or concert tickets or like memberships. And how are we going to create like interfaces that are going to support all of that in the back end technology for that. And I think that our generation, like millennials, Gen Z, and so on, and the next ones, we're entering this era at which there's going to be like redistribution of wealth in a sense. And I'm not like, like conspiracy theories or any of that, but rather like I see signs essentially of like literally new sub-interested industries being built in front of our eyes. And I see essentially like a lot of products are pulling a Robinhood, which is, oversimplifying, make it simple, stupid, right? Type of approach. And it's just working. And our generations are like in it for the vibes, but they're also in it for the trade. And I feel like back in the day, and that's kind of my closing thoughts here. Back in the day, you had to study finance, you had to be in Wall Street, you had to be in a stock exchange, you have to read a lot to kind of like understand like KPIs and like figure out like what are like the best performance indicators, right? We're now transitioning into a world that, well, I like this meme coin better, so I'm just going to buy $1 million of it, right? And it's going to go up to like $1 billion market cap overnight. This is unprecedented. Like this doesn't exist. And it kind of like, it's mind blowing thinking about, where we are today and where we were like 10 years ago or 50 years ago. Like there's like a massive difference. I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm not saying it's the right or the wrong thing. That said, I feel like considering that there's this opportunity for the average consumer, which has a 9 to 5, to essentially get exposure to these alternative assets, digital assets, is a big deal. And I feel like we're only going to see more of that. I feel like we're barely scratching the surface at like 1% of the population. So the more adoption increases, the bigger the industry will become. But there's also going to be some monumental, some big moments essentially in this industry, like what we see with Trump launching a meme coin, Melania, I feel like these were by far like one of the biggest crypto onboarding events ever. They've added like how many million Solana wallets in just 24, 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the future, 100%.
Last thing, Moonshot had over like 400K like accounts created like within like 12 hours. So like that for context. That was a mic drop though. Evan, we appreciate you. Evan, CEO of Mintify. Appreciate you guys having on. Be sure to check them out. I'll drop all the links when this goes live. We appreciate you guys. See you next time. Thank you, everybody.